When a competition starts, you usually have 2 or 3 teams that are in serious contention for the title, and most of the times, one of them wins it. But the beauty of football is that sometimes, the underdogs manage to overcome the odds and achieve the unthinkable. Today, we'll be looking at the most unlikely champions of all time and how they got to the top of the mountain. So sit back, relax, and join me on this trip back in time. Number 10, Nottingham Forest 1978 Premier League win. In their arrival to the top flight in 1977, few expected Forest to challenge for the title. The previous season, Forest had gained promotion, but only just. They had finished in 3rd place, just 1 point ahead of 4th place Bolton Wanderers, and many tipped them to struggle. However, they had Brian Clough as manager and Peter Taylor alongside them as his assistant. The pair had previously worked miracles at Derby County, and they intended to do the same in their new club. Forest only suffered 3 defeats in the first 16 games of the season, and then just 1 more loss in the FA Cup for the rest of that campaign. But what's even more remarkable is that they only allowed 24 goals throughout 42 league games. This amazing defensive record helped them win an unexpected title with a 7-point lead. Number 9. Chelsea's 2012 Champions League win. If you went back in time to 2012 and told anyone Chelsea was going to win the Champions League that season, they would probably send you to a mental asylum. The Blues were struggling domestically, having a hard time securing a top 4 spot in the Premier League. Their European campaign seemed doomed, with a 3-1 defeat in the first leg of the round of 16 against Napoli, leading to the firing of then manager André Villas-Boas. Roberto Di Matteo was brought in as the interim replacement, and then the magic began. Chelsea miraculously turned things around, overcoming the 3-1 deficit against Napoli by winning 4-0 at Stamford Bridge. Then they went on to beat Benfica in the quarterfinals and shocked everyone by defeating Barcelona in the semis. In the final, they faced a formidable Bayern Munich side but managed to overcome them in a penalty shootout to claim their historic first Champions League trophy. Number 8. Hellas Verona win the Serie A in 1985. In the Serie A era, which included superstars such as Platini, Maradona, Rummenigge, and Zico, the usual suspects of Inter Milan, Juventus, AC Milan, and the emerging Napoli were expected to battle it out for the title. Only the most optimistic Verona fan believed they could also challenge, but challenge they did, and in the process achieved the impossible. Osvaldo Bagnoli, a former player, was now the coach, had been gradually improving his side, and the time had finally come for them to shine. Verona were organized and played quick and exciting counter-attacking football, and by Christmas they were on top of the table, having remained unbeaten against every Italian giant. The second half of the season was no different, with Verona continuing to defy the odds and staying at the top when others were struggling. They sealed their first ever top-flight title on the penultimate weekend of the season, and even after almost 40 years, it is still regarded as the biggest shock in Italian football. Number 7. Deportivo La Coruña win La Liga in 2000. In a league where you have Barcelona and Real Madrid, you always know other clubs have very little to no chance of coming out on top. Atletico Madrid and Valencia managed to upset the odds a few times in the last 2 decades, but their success isn't as astonishing as the one Deportivo recorded in the 1999-2000 campaign. Their journey to win the La Liga title was not without its ups and downs though. They made a strong start to the season, topping the table by the 12th match day, and had only lost 3 matches by December. However, they hit a rough patch in the new year, winning just 2 out of their next 7 games. But Deportivo refused to give up and picked themselves back up, winning 7 of their next 10 games, putting themselves back in the title race. Although they only managed 1 victory in the last 4 matches, they were still in contention going to the final match day. Barcelona drew the last 2 games, and Deportivo took advantage of that, winning their final game against Espanyol to clinch the title. Number 6. Denmark win the Euros in 1992. 31 years ago, Denmark were given just over a week's notice to get a squad prepared for the Euro 92. Their surprise inclusion came after Yugoslavia, in a state of civil war, were not allowed to participate in the tournament. The Danes had missed out on qualification, having finished as runners-up to Yugoslavia, but then they found themselves placed in a group featuring hosts Sweden, England, and France. Although they drew against England and were defeated by Sweden, they went against their match with France with a slim chance of qualification. They beat them and advanced to the semis, where they met the then current European champions. The Netherlands were a tough opponent, but Denmark still managed to overcome them, although it was only on penalties. Then, of course, it came the final against the almighty Germany that they miraculously won to claim the European crown and write their names in football history. Number 5. Greece win the Euros in 2004. From a surprising Danish side to an absolute Greek miracle, this entry is even more impressive in my opinion. Greece were considered the second least likely team to win the competition out of all 16 nations, only behind Latvia. Managed by Otto Rehagel, they began their campaign with a huge win against the host Portugal, and although the results against Spain and Russia weren't that positive, the Greeks still qualified for the next round. Their next opponent were the current European champions France, but with a goal from Kaiserslautern, Greece eliminated them and moved on to the semis. Then they beat Czech Republic, who were actually a pretty strong side back then, and finally Portugal again to clinch their first and only international trophy. Number 4. Porto's 2004 Champions League win. Despite their iconic UEFA Cup victory in the previous year, few people thought that Porto had a serious chance of winning the Champions League. I mean, did you think that Eintracht Frankfurt could win the UCL this year? However, there was one thing that Porto had that Eintracht doesn't: a super confident and talented coach with a god complex called José Mourinho. The Portuguese manager guided the Dragons to their second Champions League after beating Man United, Lyon, Deportivo and Monaco in the final. Although Chelsea's win in 2012 was super unexpected, nobody has really topped this in almost 20 years. Number 3. Montpellier win Ligue 1 in 2012. The 2011-2012 season seemed like it was decided before it even began. PSG received a massive investment and their team was miles above every other in France. Perhaps Lyon or Marseille could put on a bit of a challenge, but no one expected Montpellier to fight alongside PSG until the last fixture. I mean, they barely escaped relegation in the previous season, but guided by Belhanda and Giroud, Montpellier managed to achieve the unthinkable. La Pelade and PSG would battle it out at the top of the table for the entire season, with Inter gaining more than a 3-point lead at any stage. With this being the case, the title was decided on the final game of the season. PSG could only draw, meaning a win for Montpellier away at Auxerre would mean they would win the most unlikely of titles. In a bad-tempered game on and off the pitch, René Girard's men secured a dramatic 2-1 victory to secure the title. Number 2. Leicester City Premier League win in 2016. Before the season kicked off, Claudio Ranieri's Leicester City side were priced at 5,000 to 1 to win the Premier League title. Just to give you some context, in the previous season they had completed one of football's greatest escapes, managing to stay in the Premier League. Leicester City fans would have been happy to have stayed clear of the relegation zone, but what they witnessed would surprise even the most optimistic Fox supporters and shock football fans around the world. At first sight, they just looked like a team of rejects who got lucky, but it wasn't as if City stole the title. They were the best team in the division and won the league by 10 points. Just 3 games were lost, and following a first half of the season where they sparred with the usual suspects, come January, Leicester sit on top for the remainder of the season. And number 1, Kaiserslautern win the Bundesliga in 1998. Kaiserslautern were Bundesliga champions in 1991, suffered a dramatic decline and got relegated 5 years later. However, they bounced back to the top flight in no time, and that marked the start of a remarkable journey. Just like Leicester City, they were considered underdogs and not expected to challenge for the title. But the team from Southwest Germany defied all odds and stunned the football world with their incredible season. Their journey began with a 1-0 victory over the reigning champions Bayern Munich. Although many consider it a mere fluke, Otto Rehhagel, who had previously led them back to the Bundesliga and later guided Greece to glory in Euro 2004, was determined to prove otherwise. His team collected 33 points from the next 42 available, and it made a statement to the likes of Bayern Munich and Borussia Dortmund. Despite more draws than wins in the rest of the season, Kaiserslautern already suffered 4 extra defeats that had kept them in the title race. They secured the title on the penultimate day of the season after a 4-0 win against Wolfsburg, while Bayern only managed a draw. With a population of just 80,000 people and a team lacking in star power but full of spirit, they deserved every bit of their triumph. Thank you all for reaching the end of the video. If you learned something here, don't forget to like and subscribe, as it really helps growing the channel. Stick around and watch this video up next. You'll enjoy it as well. I'll see you there.